We open to a Federation space station of some kind. Either that, or we've found the place where they breed the saucer sections for Galaxy-class starships. Wherever it is, the Murdoch Muppet is on his way. He even tells us that it's the Jupiter Research Station, which, if my memory of the Season 3 episode The Swarm is accurate, and it should be because I've just gone and checked, is where the dock on Voyager was created. That would certainly explain why this lab is the workplace of a certain Dr. Zimmerman, the guy who programmed the EMH series. Maybe not for much longer, though. After the pleasantries are over, and the viewer has been reminded about the contact Murdoch made with Voyager using the MIDST array, we get down to business. The business is Dr. Zimmerman's health, or more accurately, the lack of it. He's dying, and nobody around these parts has a bloody clue what from. Over on Voyager, we're receiving a call. It's from Starfleet, and it's actually more of an email as there's no live connection. They've managed to find a way to use the MIDST array to fart data at us roughly once a month, and we can do the same back, despite this apparently not involving the creation of a wormhole now, because reasons. It's all the stuff you'd expect, mail and news mostly, and sadly no shortcut home. But it's contact, and one with the promise of more every month. Even the doc's got some mail. It's from the Murdoch Muppet, and it's carrying the news of Dr. Zimmerman's condition. He's also included the relevant medical files, which might be a confidentiality breach now I think about it, but the upside is that the doc gets to give a second opinion. And just as well, too, as he thinks he might be able to offer a perspective that Federation medicine can't. The condition affecting Zimmerman is similar to what we've seen in the Plague Lads, and the principles of Borg regeneration, either magical brain healing or minibots, might give him an avenue for treatment. He shares his findings with Janeway, though brings a request along too. The doc wants to be the one to treat him. We've managed to transmit his program back to the Alpha Quadrant once before, and it'll take time for the other doctors to learn about the things he already understands, time that Zimmerman may not have. Janeway's dead set against it, of course. We've only got one doctor, as long as you're willing to ignore the backup we learned about in the Season 4 episode Living Witness, then never heard about again. Taking the risk of transmitting him through a method we've never tried before is foolhardy, and it'll mean everybody else has to wait to send their own responses to the Alpha Quadrant, as the doc's program will take up all the bandwidth. We're not told why they can't send multiple transmissions during the available window, but I'm sure the reasons are excellent. An appeal to Janeway's compassion, and the viewpoint that Zimmerman is the closest thing the doc has to a dad, wins through, and she reluctantly agrees to send him. It's not quite that simple, though. Even if we send nothing else, the doc's current program is too chonky to transmit, meaning we'll have to drop some features. He's not overjoyed about his opera skills being sent to a USB drive, but admits he's probably not going to be using them, or his other artistic skills. The archiving of his holographic Wangus and related sexy time activities frees up even more space, raising some questions about just how much effort he'd put into the simulation for it to make such a significant saving. Sufficiently svelte, the doc pops down to astrometrics, and Voyager farts him back to the Alpha Quadrant for the second time. To the station we go, where the Murdoch Muppet is paying a visit on Zimmerman. He's also brought a holographic +1, so at least the transmission was a success. Which is more than can be said for his consultation. The patient is, to be polite, a bit of a cluster cunt. It's not helped by the doc, a Mark I variant of the emergency medical hologram, being considered obsolete by him. In fact, all the other copies of his base program were repurposed for maintenance work on waste barges. But the doc gives as good as he gets and manages to wear Zimmerman down enough to get some scans. He even manages to get the answers to a few questions as well. Right up until he deactivates the talking holographic iguana called Leonard, which pisses Zimmerman off enough to throw him out. This is going to be even harder than getting Janeway to attend her appointments. Things aren't improving much, and Zimmerman's doing his best to annoy the shit out of the doc. This, according to Zimmerman's, assistant? Nanny? We'll call her his keeper. This, according to Zimmerman's keeper, means that Zimmerman likes him, as he only pisses off the people he's taken a shine to. But that's not helping the doc form a diagnosis, and it's unlikely to change any time soon with the relations between them so strained. Just as well that the Murdoch Muppet knows an excellent counsellor then, and a little needling convinces Diana to try and pop over and help out. It's a wise decision on Murdoch's part. Things are getting worse, probably not helped by the doc pretending to be a holographic massage therapist so he can take secret scans. Zimmerman's not impressed, and he's got a fair point on this one, so it's hardly surprising that he thinks Diana is a hologram too. Once that confusion is cleared up, he's at least willing to listen. Diana tries to build a bridge, explaining Zimmerman's hesitation to the doc by suggesting he'd be uncomfortable with being reprogrammed by someone he considered outdated, regardless of their capabilities. They seem to be making some progress, until Zimmerman takes a cheap shot and it all starts up again. It's a bit much even for one of Starfleet's best counselors, and, in a somewhat unconventional approach towards treatment, Diana calls them a pair of dickheads before leaving. Zimmerman and the doc are no longer on speaking terms, the latter taking refuge in the Murdoch Muppet simulation of Voyager to help him calm his shit. Diana's trying to learn some background information, and Zimmerman's keeper, who's a hologram by the way, explains the failure of the EMH Mark I. It was a crushing defeat in the eyes of Zimmerman, which is fair enough when you think about it. Hundreds of simulations with your face scrubbing shit off machinery because Starfleet says they're too ornery to be doctors is a bit of a kick in the balls. He's made newer versions since, but never with his own face. Hardly surprising then, based on that baggage, that the doc is simply dismissed as defective, regardless of the validity of his skills. We need to figure out how to get past that baggage soon, as Zimmerman's not doing so well. As he's recording his last will and testament, and perhaps realizing that he has more estate than friends to give it to, he's struck by pain. His timer may be running a bit faster than we thought. He also may have some competition. While Diana's talking to the doc on a simulated Voyager, and having her latest attempt to make peace with Zimmerman declined, the doc has a bit of a wibbly. We switch him over to the Murdoch Muppet for a look, and the news is pretty grim. Transmitting him a third of the way across the galaxy wasn't as flawless as we thought, and his program is breaking down. Looks like we've got a race for who's going to cark it first. Zimmerman's not asked about the doc's malfunction. At least he says he isn't, though those around him aren't buying it, Zimmerman's keeper neatly skewering him on his pretense of not caring about holograms. A change of mind leaves the doc a little confused to learn that Zimmerman's decided to repair him, though he accepts the offered help. The work takes the best part of a day, but results in a fully repaired program. But why stop there? Zimmerman reboots him to show off the new, improved greeting he's installed. Isn't that neat? And there are loads of other upgrades he can apply to make the doc into an entirely new man. The doc doesn't want to be a new man. The doc spent years making the man he is now through choices he made after gaining the freedom to do so. An upgrade wouldn't be him. Zimmerman's motivation is only partly altruism, of course, the rest being him seeing this as a chance to correct one of his original failures and wipe away some of the shame. The admission of that removes the last barrier between them, and after the doc convinces him that he doesn't want to be edited, Zimmerman allows him to begin treatment. The first round proves positive, and the doc reports as much to the assembled crowd. He also tells them that they've been rumbled. The fault in his program wasn't caused by the transmission, but was deliberately placed by Murdoch. The idea, it seems, was Diana's, an attempt to get them into the same room and talking. It was certainly effective, though I'll leave the viewer to decide whether causing the doc to believe he was dying in order to achieve a goal was ethical or not. The doc's at peace with it at least, and is taking some photos of the lab for his collection back on Voyager. Zimmerman's being a difficult patient, of course, refusing to stay in bed, but at least he is being a patient. Murdoch enters, causing the doc to take the opportunity for a photo with his dad, and will leave them to make some memories before the doc is transmitted away. I've made no secret of the doc being perhaps my favourite character on the show. Robert Picardo's delightfully acerbic delivery of a character that, if played only slightly differently, would be just another cantankerous old bastard, is something that pleases me. The episode does a fair job of showing what I mean, as Zimmerman is an example of how that might have gone. Similarly confrontational, but delivered in a harsher, perhaps even cruel way. He's fun to watch for an episode perhaps, but having that as a regular character would, I think, be too dour to achieve the same result as the doc. The Doctor's brusque nature is offset by a curiosity about the world and a desire for acceptance that makes him endearing. Zimmerman carries an air of defeat and resentment. Each approach adds its own flavour to the lines Picardo performs and gives us two similar but distinctly different results. Points to him for being able to adequately segregate the two. He was also involved in the writing, I note, so I guess we'd best shovel some more points his way while we're at it. There is a part of the plot that bothers me, though, the cause of Zimmerman's humiliation. Not that the original EMH didn't live up to expectations, but that they were repurposed. For me, that doesn't work on a few different levels. The idea that a hologram built for a specific task would be entirely re-engineered for something completely different, rather than simply bolt those new jobs onto a stock template, seems inefficient to me. Why spend the time ripping out all of that specialist knowledge from a program whose main flaw is personality, when you could just add the new stuff to an existing program that's pleasant? It doesn't work. Similarly unconvincing is the idea of holographic workers on waste barges. We could probably go off on a tangent about why waste barges would even be needed when you have replicator tech, but that's not what I mean. The problem I have is why anybody would outfit entire areas of ships with emitters when you could just design robots to do it. We saw full holographic coverage on the Prometheus, of course, but that was a prototype of a high-tech vessel with significant military applications. We know from experience how temperamental holographic technology can be. Sticking it all over something hauling waste doesn't make sense. The third problem I have is that it was even considered. The idea that nobody in the chain of command would have weighed the psychological impact of the decision seems like quite an oversight. You're not going to get your best work from people if you distribute their failures all over the quadrant. That might make more sense in reference to today's military organizations, something applied as a punishment for a fuck-up, but Starfleet is supposed to be a primarily scientific organization, and one run by enlightened people. This decision doesn't make sense in that context. Louis Zimmerman is an award-winning engineer and holographic technology prodigy. Publicly associating him with a fuck-up is just bizarre, especially when we've seen previously how easy it is to alter the aesthetic parameters of a hologram. Pasting a randomly generated face on them would have at least been a token effort to preventing his embarrassment. I understand the purpose of this plot point was to provide Zimmerman with a reason to be an irascible arsehole and have a problem with the doc, but the logic doesn't check out. Before we head off, there's one other thing in the episode that I'd like to compliment. Janeway's letter from an admiral asking about the status of the Maquis. We don't touch on that often enough. It's likely they'll be heading for either a public incarceration to make a point, or a very private thank you now make yourselves scarce. They are still technically wanted for crimes, so how that plays out will probably be heavily influenced by the politics back home and how current affairs with the Cardigans play out. None of the Maquis crew are guaranteed to even walk away from this, let alone be rewarded for their service. A lack of focus on the Maquis is one of my biggest gripes about the show, probably second only to that big red reset button we keep hammering like a stubborn nail. Seeing the occasional nod to the Maquis, even just as a reminder that things at home are not the same as things on Voyager, is a welcome diversion. End of episode.
Are we even going to be able to do this?
Kill Paris. Honestly, I don't know. Based on our efforts so far, I'm going with no.
Fuck's sake. I didn't even really want to do it in first place. It was just something to keep busy.
But now it's become a personal challenge.
Basically, yeah. We're doing it to ourselves. How do you get out of that?
Simple. Move the goalposts. Make a vague effort at something similar, and claim it as a victory, regardless of how it works out. Politicians have been doing it for centuries.
So what, we just hurt Paris? That's got all the same problems, but without the reward of him being dead.
Okay, so we just kill someone else. Someone that doesn't have plot armor.
Hold up a minute. Didn't I hear we're going to have a visit from an admiral or some shite next week?
An admiral? Perfect. No supernatural protection, and we can genuinely claim he's a more important target. Then we can forget about this whole fucking thing and move on with our lives. Woof.